Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Casting Calls.
Okay, so casting stories, any favorite ones? I like the one about that one commercial where the girl just refused to go any way other than her own, and her stubbornness cost her the project.
I love that.
Another one I remember when we were doing, after Monster was done, and that was nominated for an Artios Award, coming out to LA, Patty Jenkins is like, hey, we got to get together. We got to have lunch. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And then she guiltily called and said, you know, would it be terribly problematic if I were to bring a friend? You know the story, I think. And it's like, no, you could bring a friend. And it honestly wasn't. It was like, no big deal. It's like, oh, hi, this is my friend. It was Steve Perry from Journey who did music for the movie.
You told me this. I love this so much.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So that was a cool casting story.
My
and then
friend.
the other one was really the first film casting director from LA that took Kim and I under, when I worked with Kim, my ex-wife, who's not in the business anymore. But when we were working together with Mally Finn, that was the first person to kind of give us a try because she just wanted us to try somebody new. There was an audition. Joel Schumacher directed this film we were working on. And this isn't great for actors to hear, but they wanted some real gritty people, you know? So we found some people like, you know, hanging out in front of Winn-Dixie, you know? And so, but Mally, you know, brought him in. It's like, hey, sit down, you know, crisscross on the floor, started just talking to the person, roll camera, Mark, you know, and talking to the person, you know, hey, what makes you think of home? What makes you think of family? It's like, is there a song? It's like, yeah, probably Amazing Grace. Can you sing a little bit of that? You know, the guy singing Amazing Grace and just starts crying. And it was like, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then it's like, okay, well, let's try to do the lines. And you know, he wasn't an actor. So we didn't go with him, but he did the lines and it was a little rough. And when he left, I thought, okay, this is that ugly Hollywood thing I'm expecting. This is where Joel Schumacher and Mally Finn are going to go, don't quit your day job, kid. You know? No, it was like, it was not that. The door closed and it was safe for them to be catty and they didn't go there. They, you know, what a nice guy, you know, it's like, what a great kid. It's like, we'll find something for him. I think this is a little above, you know, above his pay, but we'll find something for him. And even people that didn't come in prepared, I thought, well, this is where there's going to be trash talk when they leave. No, it was like, yeah, that's a shame. They just didn't seem prepared. Do you think, Mark, we should give him another chance? And if it was somebody that chronically was never going to come in prepared and was going to blow the opportunity every time, I would have said, you're going to get the same thing.
Yeah.
Of
this is their norm.
Yes, let's bring them in again. And then I would say, you just dodged a bullet. You got a second life, and no one gets that. So when you come back, you know, and they would come back prepared. But that should not be something a casting director has to tell an actor.
Yes.
Come in prepared for a feature film. So that was a favorite one. Anyway, that was a couple of those stories.
Those are great. It's funny because it reminded me of a story. You and I were casting when we were casting Tooth Fairy, and there was this lead role that we were looking for, and it was the bad guy, kind of the smarmy guy. Yeah. And we brought in a local actor in Orlando who's really well known and is a great actor and everything. But it just wasn't a good fit for him. It was not, you know, the genre was outside of the genre he normally does and stuff. That high comedy wasn't really him. And he left. And then it was a slow time here. So I think he was feeling the lack of work, the pinch. And so he called you directly because you're such a softie. And he called you and said, Mark, please, will you let me come back in and let me read again? Because I feel like I've got, you know, I can do a better job and stuff. And I remember you telling me this the next day. I remember you're like, yeah, so, I mean, he's a great actor. And so I told him I was going to give him another chance and everything. And I was like, but do you think, and you're like, I know, but I want to give him another chance. And you were so nice. And the director was really gracious about it. Yeah. And we brought him back in and he was no better the second time. Yeah. It was not a good fit. But he left feeling like he had done everything that he could do, and you gave him that second chance.
And that's all I ever say to anybody. It's like, I won't get in your way. If anything, I'll help you. I'll advocate for you, but I'll also get out of your way. You know, it's like first take, if you've got something in mind, let's do that first so I don't get in your head with what I'm thinking.
Right, and you do.
Let's just do a first take, and then let's play off of that and do something slightly different just to show the director that you have range and it wasn't a robotic thing. Yeah. But yeah, I remember that. And that way, that director never came back to us to try to circle back. It's like, what about so-and-so?
That's right.
can't get him out of my head. It's like, here he is.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, he's either going to make it or break, or not. And he didn't. And now we moved on. But yeah, and that same film, I can remember, you remember as well. It's like, all right, Lauren and Mark, him or him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this one you get that, this one you get this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I think then this guy, that's probably going to make sense. Okay, good for you. What about these two? Oh my God, she is the sweetest person in the whole wide world. Well, we want sweet people on our set, so let's go with her.
That's right.
But I've heard
had a lot of it.
Yeah, I've heard casting directors say, talent agents say to their own talent, it's like, oh, casting has nothing to say about it. Casting has no input at all. And it's not even true on the commercial if you heard what I said about playing referee. But occasionally, and this, I just thought of this. This was the commercial that Chris did down in Miami for that French company, and the director was not good with people.
Oh yeah,
Eckrick. Yeah, he yelled, thinking that was going to make it miraculously happen.
Right.
But that guy, and again, I only see another side of him, and it's the happy-go-lucky pre-production guy, where I know on set he's not that guy. But anyway, in that time, I remember on one commercial, he and I sitting down and rewriting the copy.
Mm-hmm.
So people would be mind blown at that. But it's like, and this is the other thing I would say, no, that doesn't happen in every casting. And it doesn't happen because I'm amazing. It happens because I think you set the tone. How you run a casting is how you set a tone or a callback. So yeah. I hear stories about like callbacks that are very stiff and you just don't talk and everything. Well, the host of the party setting the tone. If I have you over for a party and I'm wearing a lampshade and we're playing Led Zeppelin and people are jumping off the roof into the pool, then you can talk loud, you can be nutty, and you can, do a keg stand. But the next time you come over and playing jazz and we're all speaking in hushed tones, you're not going to jump off the roof into the pool. You know how to act. And when we are host, not coronavirus, when we are hosts, though, visiting clients, they fall in line because how do you do it? They're not going to come out. Their egos aren't going to say, how do you want to run this, Mark? We just run it how we run it, and they fall in line. So if we're chatty, hey, Lauren, how are the kids? Did Chris get that party was up for? And when you leave, and you've seen this, when you leave, they go, so you know her? It's like,
yeah,
dude, we know everyone. We have some story about everyone coming in. And it's like, it's kind of the difference between a huge market and a small market. Yeah. And so once they say that, if their ego isn't going to get the best of them, they'll go, okay, now that we've seen her, what can you tell me about her? And they'll do that with every person. And at that point, don't tell me the casting director doesn't have any sway.
Absolutely.
Because we do. But mostly it is by committee. You're right.
Yeah, but I will absolutely say that in the vast majority of times that I have ever cast with you, for you, or by myself, I've had input. It's not that you know what I mean? And even when I was just a learning and a lowly assistant and working with you, and they still, I'm there, I'm the one that knows the person that's on the other side of the camera, like you said. Yeah. So those people, if you're in the room with the decision makers, you're absolutely going to be asked your opinion most of the time.
Yeah, and if it's kind of loose and we're kind of chatting, and I might chime in and say before the director has a chance, I've even done. You've maybe heard me do this, like, okay, now that wasn't your best. Take it from the top again before they have a chance to go. Thank you, because thank you would be them missing out. It's like, yes. I'm not going to let you judge this person on a rough start that never got off the ground. We're going to pull the plug on that take, and we're going to reset.
I know they can do better. So,
yeah, and to me, that's why they hire a casting director for them to represent the local. Show me what your talent pool is in this market.
Yeah.
I'm not doing my job if I get in your way, try to make you, challenge you, put a speed bump in front of you. That's not doing my job. And if I sit there and watch you mess up, and I know it's just because you got in your head right then, it's my duty to say, take that from the top and do it one more time.
Right. Right.
What's the worst that's going to happen? The director's going to go, no, Mark, we've seen enough. Then I'm going to say, wait out in the waiting room. Hang on. Let me take a shot at this. Are you sure? Because she's really good. Mm-hmm. And there are instances where it's like, you know what? We already know we're going to hire this one. we already know that one, you know, two people back, we've got her pinned for this. Okay, but just so you know, she's better than what you saw. It's like,
Right.
I believe you, but that's not really the direction we're going in. Okay, and then I'll come tell you the same damn thing, you know. And I've said to actors, I'm not always available for you, or the people casting with me aren't, but ask, hey, whatever happened with that one job? I thought for sure in the callback it was mine to lose. More often than not, it's going to be the guy from New York was 6'2" and you're 5'1", and they just went with Lauren because she's 5'7" or 8'9", whatever, and it just looked right. And
it was a better match. Yeah.
And that I would, as an act, I'm not an actor, but if I hear that, I can live with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you work in this bubble where you don't get the feedback and you don't know where you stand, I don't see how you can improve.
That's exactly it.
So yeah.
And that's what training does, you know, getting out there and taking workshops with you guys and finding out what works and seeing it from your perspective versus just our own bubble that we're in. And of course, regular acting classes, all those kinds of things will help.
Every workshop I ever do, I say, go take with John, go take with RJ, go take with Lori, go find out your casting directors, because this is who your casting directors are in this market. Find out what works. We're not all the same.
That's right.
And so that when you come in, that part of the mental minefield is dealt with. So if you have a short-tempered person that runs it like a military operation, and you know that going in, then you can behave accordingly. And you're not going to put your foot in your mouth, and you're not going to screw yourself, you know, by not knowing what you're walking into. Now that will come with experience, but why not fast forward it and spend 7 hours or 6 hours with a casting director with whom it would take a year to get that much time with in the 5-minute increments that you get with them in a casting.
Exactly.
6 hours and spend 6 hours with John Peros, so you know every time you go there who you're dealing with, what you're dealing with. I like John, so that's why I mentioned him. But yeah, so I just think that's part of the game, is knowing what you have to, you know, deal with.
Being able to play to the player. Yeah, sure.
Right.
I mean, it makes a huge difference. So I agree. And I think one of the most frustrating things in my experience, and I know you and I've talked about this before, are the actors that think they know everything, but in reality are not exposing themselves outside of their bubble. And so they've written their stories, and you're like, that's not actually how that works, you know? So, and it's one thing if they don't want to know anymore. It's another thing when I think they've written their own story and decided that they already know the story. And so they don't need to invest in any sort of education because they know. Right. And
that's why I also think, you know, besides understanding the idiosyncrasies of each casting director, I think we all have something to add that you may not already know from doing this for many, many, many years. And if nothing else, you know how each of us work, and you know how to adapt your way of working with that particular person. So it's just a smoother kind of exchange at that point.
Sure. And it also, you know, just the human nature of it. When we're being submitted through these websites, through casting networks, or through breakdown services on the theatrical side. And if you, as a casting director, know me because you've spent time with me, you've seen me, I'm now a known quantity. You've seen me in a 7-hour workshop, and you've auditioned me a couple of times. And so therefore you have a better understanding of what I can do. You're more likely to invite me into your audition, right? Because I'm a known quantity to you.
Well, yeah, honestly, yes. The answer to that is yes. Although there's always that disclaimer that I put on every workshop thing, you know, the taking of a workshop is not a payment for future access to auditions. Yeah. It's not.
Well, because if you're terrible, that's a known quantity too.
Well, that's true. But let's be honest, you know, 5 hours with anyone in a field that you have to work with, if it's 5 hours with me taking a workshop from a director or from a producer, I'm going to be better at casting for that director than I was last time.
Sure.
And that just stands to reason. But not only that, that director, I'm now burned into that director's memory, and I'm hopefully going to get called for the next 10 jobs that he brings to town. So, you know, it's just smart.
Human nature. Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, but, you know, it extends to the waiting room. At least in my office, it certainly does. If you're a shithead to the person signing people in, you don't think they're going to mention that?
Yes.
You know, even though they may not come in like a narc saying, hey, I want to tell you what just happened. They might be collecting headshots and going, oh, this guy, what do you mean? That guy read me the riot act. What do you mean? Why? Oh, because he was 10 minutes late and I asked him to have a seat and I told him I'd get to him as soon as I could. And he acted, oh, well, that's really good to know, and I'm going to share that. It's like that guy treats my staff like shit.
Yeah. Well,
but if you like him, just tell your PAs to be on guard because he's going to be an ass.
I was going to say, I have a memory that I don't even know if you remember this, and I don't know if you want all the actors to know this, but we were working on Bring It On, and you had brought me in as an acting coach because a lot of those athletes just didn't have any acting experience. And so you were asking me to coach them and prepare them and stuff in the room for the auditions. And we were running behind one day because we were working so hard to get the best performances that we could out of each one of these, because they were amazing athletes, but they might not have had a lot of acting experience. And there was a girl in the waiting room who was a SAG actress in town. She was young. And your assistant came in and said, "Oh my God, this girl is being so rude." And she just threatened and said she was going to call SAG if she had to wait 3 more minutes or whatever. And so you stopped everything and you said, bring her in.
Yeah.
She came in the room and you were completely kind and you were polite to her. And you said, "So sorry to make you wait so long." And she said, "Oh, no. She played the whole "Oh no, it was fine." As if we weren't going to talk to the assistant.
Right.
And then she leaves, and I will never forget this. You turned to whoever was doing the thing, and you said, "Delete that. We will not be putting that on the tape to send it to producers." And I remember us having a conversation about it. And you said, "I would never put someone like that on the set. Why would I put her on the set? She's going to be completely attacking, the people that are the assistants."
And I consider that different than blocking,
Oh no, you let her read.
That it's like that, I've got to protect the production at that point. It's not presuming the director can't handle somebody like that, but it's just that kind of cancer on a set, for lack of a better way of putting it, it spreads. And it's in any production you go and visit, whether it's commercial, film, or TV, if it's rotten, it's somebody on that set that's making everything rot around them. And it's the worst thing for a set is to put one of those people there. And if she was going to be a principal of a certain caliber, she was going to walk around like a prima donna, and it was going to really ruin any of the cohesiveness between the cast members. So, yeah.
You were 100% right. And it really stuck with me then. And because it's actually, in all the time that I've spent with you in the casting room, it's the only time I've ever seen you do that. Ever.
Yeah, it is. And I will put new people on there a lot of times, and it sounds like I'm using you, but I'll come back to that. But I'll put a new person on there because if I put, like, Russ Blackwell is one of the, the guys, in our market that's really good, and he still calls Florida
experienced.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I just need to see the guy you think should play this. Put him on tape for me. Okay, I could do that. Nobody's going to look at Russ Blackwell on a tape and go, "I don't see it." But they might go, "Yeah, I guess. Let me put myself reading that part before you watch Russ again." And I'll put my kid on the other side of Russ's performance and then watch the 3 of us. Oh, God, you're right. I got to hire this guy today. So a lot of times the newbies, let's get you guys in there. Not you, but let's get the newbies in there, get them used to the process and not so intimidated by it. Excuse me. And it's not just to use them as tools, so that they can elevate their peers that are more experienced or have more hours under their belt. But it's also has happened a lot of times where it's like, this guy came out of nowhere. I don't see much of a resume, but let's bring him in the callback. My God, he held his own. He gave us some new ideas. Well, that guy, who came in from agency X, that's like barely on the map of anyone. It's like by the time he's done shooting this film, this guy's going to be with a good agent and he's going to have the access he should have always had. But he just started this. And, sometimes it can be that way.
Sure.
It's a very subjective thing, God, the stories. I've had a guy got hired because somebody in the room liked the fact that he pressed his shirt. He ironed his shirt.
What?
Anyone that irons their shirt cares about having the job. And anybody that wants to be on my job and cares that much is somebody I want to hire. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's the way to go, but I've also had people like where all the people in the room, the director, the producer, the ad agency, everybody, production company loves this guy. And this one person, I just don't like him. Let's watch him again. Put him back up there, Mark. Let's play it again. Oh, yeah. No, he's good, but I don't like him. Why don't you like him? Finally, it's like, okay, fine. He looks like my ex-husband.
Right. That's that human nature
can't fix
quality.
that. Yeah, you can't break through that. That's just your dumb luck.
No, you can't.
You're the guy that looks like her ex-husband.
There definitely have been times that you and I have experienced where that was not the actor that we would have chosen for the role, but for whatever reason, like you said, they had some sort of weird thing that they either attached to or completely disliked about this other person that we thought were better. And it's that human aspect that it's impossible to say sometimes why one person gets cast over another.
Right. And, you know, that goes to backups too. It's like, you know, my first choice or second, you're second. Okay. Well, do not block your schedule out. That doesn't mean anything until everybody weighs in. And then they go, well, no, you didn't get it. I know it's going to go the first guy. No, it went to the third, you know, favorite.
Right.
You know, so it's like, you know, you're never out until you're out. And even then, something happens the night before. So, you know, where you get the
all kinds of things can happen. Yeah, for sure.
It's very cool.
Do you remember that time? I don't think you weren't there. I was running the casting for you, and but you contributed because there were two older women that came into audition at the same time. It was for a commercial, and they were slating in front of the camera. I wanted them to stand shoulder to shoulder, and one woman was just talking from the minute she came in. She was very nervous, and so she was talking and talking and talking. And one woman was very experienced. I knew her. I'd seen her a lot. And so the two ladies stand in front of the camera, and I say, I'm going to make up names because I actually don't remember her name, but I'm like, okay, Marge, I'm going to have you slate first. And she's like, she looks to the person next to her. She goes, who, Marge? Me, Marge? You, Marge. Your name is Marge, right? Yeah, I'm Marge. Okay, Marge. Well, I want you to slate. You're going to tell me your name and your agency. And she turns to the woman next to her and goes, oh, and pushes her.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm like, oh, why are you shoving her? Oh, you told me I wanted to slate. And I was recording, so I send that to you, and you edited a GIF out of it, which we watched over and over and over of the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, Marge? Who, Marge?
Yeah. If you could shut up and stop telling your more experienced acting partner, you know, what to do, you would know your name is Marge, and you would know to slate.
And she had been directing her as she walked in the room. That's right. Yeah. Oh my God, that was so funny and memorable for me, though. I wish I still had that.
Yeah, there's some funny things that happen, and you know, in fact, you know, now I'm getting back to like the teaching side of this, but it's funny. I know because I've been in this position in other things where you know people sound like the adults on the Peanuts cartoons, you know, where it's like I'm looking, I know the person's mouth is moving, I know they're saying words of wisdom, and I don't understand it. That's when you're supposed to say, I am so sorry. Can you repeat that?
Right.
Or if people, I'm always trying to improve so that if I, instead of saying, hey, can you do this like, like Malcolm in the Middle Mom, because some people may not have seen that.
Right.
Well, the answer is if you're one who hasn't seen that, it's a simple thing. I don't know who Malcolm in the Middle Mom is. I know the reference. I've never seen the show, but tell me what makes the Malcolm in the Middle Mom special, interesting, unique.
Yes.
And then you're forcing the director or the casting director to say, well, she's always dealing with the incompetence of her husband and her kids. And she's always the smartest one in the room unless it's her son, Malcolm. And, it's like, and you can give them that. It's like, and they may even go, oh, are you talking, that's kind of like Betty White in this show or whatever, or
right.
whatever, or Blanche and the Golden Girls. Why I know that, I don't even know. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, the smart one in the room, basically. Yeah. But not just that. She's put out because everybody else is not paying attention to her. I mean, whatever the little nuances are, the shorthand is good in that respect, but it also, it's how I interpret that too. It's like, okay, you want me to do it like Malcolm in the Middle Mom. I've always hated her. I always thought she was, horrible to her husband. And now I'm going to just read it like an asshole. And it's like, no, that's not what I meant. So it's so subjective. So our adjectives are always good, but it's nice to have references. I would think, and it's a shorthand way of getting real fast to something you're trying to tap into.
Yeah, we call it an as if. It gives us a good example. But like you said, actors need to speak up if they don't understand what that reference is.
It's simple to just say, I don't know what it is, but tell me describe her to me. And then you're forcing the director to use his words. Use your words, don't just say that. Or just to say, oh, and you may even repeat it. Oh, you mean the frazzled mom who's in over her head?
Yeah.
No, not so much that aspect of her. I'm really more or less talking to her like she's the eye-rolling wife to this boob of a husband. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's a whole different set of things you're just telling me, you know? So you got to know what your direction is, and it's okay to say, I need clarification. So I always thought that was important. But it's also nice to have a wide range of reference just by being a fan of TV, movies, and you know, and even commercials. You know?
Yeah, well, I think I tell actors that all the time. If you're auditioning for commercials regularly, watch commercials. I mean, you got to see what the feel, what's current right now, what's happening in those little 30-second movies, basically.
Right.
And if we're constantly skipping them, we have no idea.
Yeah, and I often get this thing where it's like, yeah, we're going to do this commercial. You're going to be on the phone with the director, who is Bob Jones, by the way, making up that name. And I'm like, I don't know who Bob Jones is, but I'm not going to go, who's that? I'm going to go, really? Bob Jones? No kidding. Okay, Google Bob Jones. Oh, he did the Super Bowl ad for Budweiser with the cute little puppies, you know, and the horses. Oh, so I get it. So let me look at some more of his stuff. Oh, his whole thing is the warm and fuzzy. Okay, this really informs what I'm going to be needing to do on this one as well. I'll make sure that I can, you know, I can confirm that by saying, is this similar to your one that you did for, you know, and they love that, you know, and they love it that you know what they've done. Well, there's no excuse for not knowing it in 2020. It's called a laptop and a phone. I mean, come on. And I don't, you know, I often say, like, you know, well, it's easy to say the difference between Disney and Universal used to be wide. Like nobody with long hair and a T-shirt was on the Disney commercials. They all had neat haircuts and polo shirts.
Right.
That ain't the case anymore. So now it's the line is, you know, is kind of blurred between the two. But it's like Universal always had the little skater kids, and Disney always had the choir boys. And it was easy to tell what commercial you were watching. I don't know what the nuances are between Crest and Colgate. I know one of them is red, and I know one of them is blue. So I'm going to find out which one is red, and if that's my commercial, I am not wearing blue.
Right.
Even if it gives me a psychological edge that's fantasy and it's not real, it still gives you some edge. And watch some commercials. Wow, the Colgate commercials are silly. The Crest commercials are a little more slice of life real. So I'm not going to try to comedy this thing up. I'm going to just say the funny line and let it land, and I'm not going to be goofy. But if it's the other guys, I'll do the goofy because it seems to be what they really identify with.
Their
and
style.
And how they brand. It's branding, you know?
Yeah,
sure. You know what it is, and it's a Google is all it is. I get those jobs all the time. Insurance companies I've never heard of. There was one we did, and I don't know if one of you guys booked it, but it was for a car insurance company, and until I Googled it, I didn't know that it was for like exotic cars or collectibles. So everybody that uses its insurance car, you know, company drives a Maserati, or they drive a 57 convertible Chevy, or, you know, or classic cars. And so now it's like, well, that's a whole type of person. That's a whole vibe that you're going to be reading these lines at. You know, this isn't you in your Honda Civic. This is you in your 1949 Lincoln.
Yeah, it's a different upscale kind of feel.
Yeah, you're a guy who goes to car shows, and it's a whole different ball of wax, you know. So anyway, it's like that stuff is so easy, and it's a shame when people don't utilize the tools at their fingertips.
I totally agree. I mean, Geico has an entire style for their brand in all their commercials, right? Yeah. So if you're auditioning for Geico, it's going to be very different than Travelers Insurance or whatever, or, you know, State Farm. It's just different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you can watch them kind of evolve a little bit too, because I've noticed like the one with Dennis, what's his name? Is that Allstate, I think, you know, with the deep baritone voice. Some of those are getting, the last one I saw, he was watching like a basketball game with his buddies, and the commercial of him came on in the room, and they all gave him like the slow burn look, like, do we have to put up with this? And he's like, hey, what am I going to say? They didn't used to be that silly. They were stately and very serious, and we're Allstate, you know, we're very stable and mature. Right. Now they're going silly because I imagine they're losing some market share to the guys that are doing the silly commercials.
They're evolving, to try to capture that back. Yeah.
and more the insurance companies are going humor over like stability and trust. You know, it's like they're fun and humorous. And I think it's a younger market and they just don't take things that seriously. And I think that that doesn't resonate with a younger insurance buyer, I presume.
I think that's a good point too that you just said. I mean, I think overall commercials fit into about 3 categories. They're either going to be heartwarming,
Yeah.
humorous, or slice of life,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that ability, and we've talked about this a lot, I think that serves a lot of actors really well, is that ability to get out of our self-consciousness, because commercial auditions just innately put us in kind of a silly predicament. We often are having to improv a scene. We're not in an environment, something silly is happening. A lot of imagination work has to go into it. And those actors that can get out of their self-consciousness and be the stupidest looking person in the room is often the person that books the spot, because their ego didn't get in the way. You know, I see a lot of actors come in looking beautiful, but they're so stiff that it's not going to do them any favors in the commercial casting room, especially.
Right. And from the inside the audition room, I can tell you, you know, it's like the direction may be, okay, you're in your kitchen, you're going to take out a box of cereal, pour it. It's like, dude, where's the bowl? It's like, no, you're just going to pantomime all this stuff. Yeah. And it's the actor that puts the refrigerator between them and the camera, which is like, okay, yeah. But it's also, it's like, you know, you just walk through the counter that you just showed me, you put the bowl on, or getting in the car and they just go and they sit in the chair. It's like, what, are you in a dune buggy? And it's like, well, yeah, and they don't think to adjust the rear view mirror. And so when the first person comes in after 29 people walk through the car like it's invisible, just does a simple adjustment of the mirror, you're going, that's an actor.
Oh, yeah.
Even though it's such a silly thing, it's just like what any kid would do. If you say, really make me believe you're in the invisible car, you know, you're getting in a car, they'll open the car, they'll close it, they'll play with the seat belt. It sounds so elementary, but people are just not even thinking that you're being watched and you're being judged on how you suspend our disbelief, and you're not doing it at all.
Speaking of being watched, tell me about the slate. How important is the slate, do you think, in commercial casting?
It's especially since, you know, everything's digital. I mean, I guess it's always been on a tape even, but it's the first impression. And it's like, look the camera in the eye and you're looking your audience in the eye. You know, just glance and shift your eyes as you're saying your name, mumbling. It's like, well, who's this guy? You know, it's like they can't even look me in the eye. So it's like it's basic common courtesy, number one, but it's also a first impression. So yeah, just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You know, here I am. This is who I am. I do, especially when it comes to film and television, I do kind of have you slate in the mood and the mode of who you are, though. I don't think there's anything about being cheery if you're the murderer, you know, and at the same time, you don't have to be, you know, you don't have to act it out. Just kind of, you know, lose the smile so much, you know?
Yeah, the tone of the piece. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But what people don't understand is like that first frame, you know, the software captures a screen grab that comes out of those first 3 frames. Yes, exactly. So set yourself, put your feet apart a little bit, you know, realize what your frame is. And if you ask somebody and they yell at you, that's not on you. That's them. They're just miserable people. But if you ask for information that helps you and they don't give it to you, then you've lost nothing. Yeah, look the camera in the eye and just be confident and speak clearly and speak up and listen. Be sure to listen. I can't count how many times I've had like 4 people in a line and I've said just first and last name. First guy says first and last name. Second says first and last name and their agent. Third and fourth say first and last name and their agent. And I say to the third and fourth, why did you guys say your agent? Well, because he did. Well, don't follow him over the cliff. Did you hear me ask for? Yeah, I did. And then they kind of admit, I don't really know why I did that. It's like, well, you should understand why you do anything when you're coming in the room. But the fact that you're just going to yield to the person next to you is not boding well, because you're not making choices for yourself at all. You know?
Yes.
But
all the time.
That's always funny. But yeah, I think the slate is important because that freeze frame is going to be you know, eyes wide, looking in the camera and not looking scared and not, you know, distorted. And then really speaking up and not mumbling, you know? It's like if I say my name's Mark Mullen, it's like, wait, what is it? You know, and it's like, and that sometimes goes on me where I'm like, okay, I don't, who are you again? You know, and I'm trying to type it in because that's another thing when somebody comes in and their profile for whatever reason isn't up and I have to add one, which is unacceptable, really. I do it because it's the curse, you know. But it's like, for Christ's sake, if you're going to do it, get all your profiles and all the software that's being used by all the casting directors. What more can I tell you? That's pretty simple. But on the occasion that I don't, it's like, you know, my name's Mark Mullen. I'm not finding you. Mullen? Yep. Mark? Yep. Oh, I go by Marvin. You know, it's like, dude, I've been here 5 minutes. We're all waiting, and you just remembered that. So it's,
right.
And you're going by Marvin anyway.
You should change that.
Yeah, you should change.
Which is actually true. I tell actors all the time, your casting network's profile should reflect what you want to be called and what you are going to, how you're going to introduce yourself on camera in the slate. So if my casting network's profile says my name is Lauren O'Quinn Burns, and then I just come in and I slate Lauren O'Quinn, they often, it's mismatch. Now, I'm only Lauren O'Quinn for acting purposes, but so many people will say things like Christopher. My husband's name is Christopher. Christopher Burns, but he goes by Chris Burns. Well, just be Chris Burns.
Yeah, exactly. Like Steven is one of those where it's Stephen, but they want to go by Steve. So I always know him by Steve. So I'm going Steve, search, Steve, search. I know he's in here. I know he's in here. Oh my God, he's under here as
Steven.
And no one's ever called him Steven. He never refers to himself as Steven, but for some reason he put his birth certificate name on here.
Right.
I don't get it. But yeah, it's just common sense.
Yeah, put on your profiles what you want to be known as. Yeah. So, that's a really important thing that actors do. And also not filling out their profiles all the way. Like they created it one day and then they walked away from it. And why their agents aren't on top of them about this, I'm not sure, but yes.
Well, it's not so much an issue now, but when my kids were little, I can, just to set the scene of what it results in. When you decide you'll put your shoe size in another time. So here it is, and this is a true story. I'm at a Pixar movie with my 2 youngest kids. I can't leave them in the movie theater, and my phone is buzzing in my pocket. I, have it turned down to the lowest setting, and I look at it as quickly as I can, and it's like 911. Wardrobe has an issue. We don't have a shoe size on the, whatever. I have to pull them out of the movie theater. My kids are like, "Why are we not having to go?" Because some jackass decided they didn't want to put their shoe size on there. So I go on my phone, God bless technology. I look them up, and not only that, they put their, they didn't put a phone number down. So I can't call them now or text them. So now I have to call the agent. We're on a Sunday, and then, I got to wait for the agent to get back to me. And then the agent has to chase them down. I don't have something to write with. Can you text me their frickin' phone number and their shoe size? These are silly things that nobody should have to worry about. I've never been one that says, why is this not stapled on the right? And say, I don't give a shit about that. But I do care if your profile digitally isn't complete, because it's costing everybody production time.
Yeah.
That we don't have. Wardrobe is standing in the middle of a shoe store. And they came to your size card, and I didn't catch it. I admit it, but neither did she. And she comes to your shoe size, and it's not there. She's not buying shoes until you get that answer to us. But we can't get that answer because you didn't put your phone number down. What are you hiding?
Basic stuff.
I don't care what your phone number is. I just need to get to you, And so people think, just put the shoe size in, and they don't know that that's the cascading event that happens from just that one lazy moment. And
absolutely.
It's
And also that aspect of like, okay, you just paid for a full headshot session. You've selected 5 headshots. You've got 5 different headshots that show different types that you play. And then you just upload one to your casting profiles. Who is going to see them on your computer? You've got to upload them to your casting profiles so that people can use them. Because I know that you would certainly be the person to do this, that let's say that a client was looking at me as the mom in a commercial. Great, fine, that's how they see me. But then they think, you know what, actually, that other commercial that we're doing, she might be really good as the businesswoman in that. Yeah. And you say, oh, hold on, I think she's got a headshot that'll show her in that sort of look. And you can pull it up, right? And I've got that headshot. That can help you advocate for me. But I can't tell you how many people, and I'm sure it's a money thing sometimes with actors, they think, well, I can afford that right now. And I get that, but that's part of the cost of doing business is finding the ways to afford those. Casting profiles are definitely a place we have to spend our money.
I agree completely. And the other thing that makes me think about that too is again, I'm not an actor, but there's a lot of golf stuff in Florida. Find the golf fanatic friend that you have and pay them $25 to take you to the driving range and teach you how to have a pretty swing. Nobody's likely going to pan to see how beautifully the ball flies, but they want to see the form and the grip and the movement and the tilt and twist of your hips and all those mechanics that make it look pretty for the camera. I say that a good golfer for an afternoon, you couldn't spend a better $25. Mm-hmm. I know Carlos Navarro is a good example. Mm-hmm. You know, learned how to master a horse, and it got him a recurring role on Walking Dead.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to say that, you know, what's the other one? Harley, he did the Harley commercial. Peyton Lee.
Yeah. Peyton Lee, right.
You know, and this is another thing. This is just the nature of the business. It's like, yeah, we need a guy that can ride a motorcycle. No, you need a guy that can handle a large Harley that has experience. And this is what you find out later when the guy comes back and Peyton says, they could not have shot that commercial with almost anyone else I've ever known that knows how to ride a motorcycle.
Yeah, because it was precision driving.
It was precision driving. My arms turned to rubber. It was the hardest day I've ever had on a set. And you really understand at that moment that the client has so little understanding of what they need in a person, and they got lucky.
Yeah.
You know, there might have been two other guys, but you know, the large majority. I have a motorcycle license. I ride a Vespa. I can get on a Harley. I will probably say that I'm an hour in. I'm done. I'm toast. I can't give you another minute. My arms won't lift up to the handlebars. But they don't know that, and there's a lot of those stories too. However, I've got off topic. Go and putting, golfing, you know, surfing, maybe. I don't know, maybe not so much surfing. I don't roller. I mean, just anything, you know, that isn't super dangerous.
Physical skills.
Too. I would do the horseback and the motorcycle thing. Right off of I-4, you have the Harley Davidson place. Mm-hmm. They give lessons all the time on the weekends. Mm-hmm. Go pay them $30 and learn to ride a motorcycle. Go get a motorcycle license at the DMV. Set up an appointment. It won't take much time if you set the appointment. And have it in your wallet, and you can do a motorcycle part. And it's not only going to be for a commercial, it might be for a TV show or a film.
Sure.
And put that on your resume.
Yeah, don't forget to put it on your resume if you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about commercial reels? Do you think that commercial reels are helpful to have those uploaded on casting networks?
I do. Actually, I sent some to a client that I hadn't before all this virus thing hit. That was a new client. They were nervous. They were really overthinking things, but they were cool about it. So it wasn't annoying. Like sometimes people overthink it because it's like, well, you're a hillbilly in Florida. You probably don't know how to do this. So I want you to put together a website of samples of all the commercials you've ever done. It's like, dude, but this wasn't that. So I was able to pull some people. They don't even know I did this. The actors, some people I pulled some clips. It gave them a sense of what the kind of people they were looking for were in our market, because they were really nervous. They didn't know if they were going to even shoot in Florida.
Right.
I even would go so much to say, as somebody in the mix that was local said we couldn't do it. And the guy called me and said, yeah, so-and-so said you probably don't have it in Florida. And it's like, oh, hell yeah, we do. And that's what caused me to have to go down that rabbit hole to dig up footage. I went to some old auditions. I pulled a couple of clips, and it was like, it was an insurance themed thing. So it was that, you know, talking to the camera kind of, you know, certain kind of level of authority and comfort and all that. And luckily I had some auditions where I picked a few samples and I said, here's a smattering of who you'll see and the types of people we have in this market. It's like, oh, this is awesome. Okay, we're coming to Florida. But the person initially said, yeah, I don't think you have it, or we have it. So that's a shame.
I will say though that you are definitely one of those casting directors that will go to the ends of the earth to make something work in order to make sure that the project comes here, which we love. I mean,
yeah, and you've benefited from that too. When I have clients also that come in, and it's like, hey, I'm from Portland, Oregon. We've tapped out. Everybody knows everybody in our market. There's no more, you know, we have nobody that doesn't have some conflict. You know, but I know you have a big, you know, non-union market down there. It's like, yeah, I'll run a casting for you. And for, you know, maybe 2 or 3 months, I'll be doing work for somebody shooting in Oregon, and you've done stuff from out of the state. You know, that's invisible to the numbers when when Film Florida takes down that and the local, it's like they don't know that because it didn't shoot in Florida.
Right.
But I got paid, and so I was in part of the economic impact, and so were you if you got put on a plane to go shoot this thing.
Sure, sure.
I mean, I've put people on planes to Europe, you know, that shot in Amsterdam and in France.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the invisible part of the market. It doesn't happen all the time, but there are little spurts where I'll get a client from overseas or from outside of our state that'll call me to put people on camera, and then they'll book them off the web.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's kind of the invisible part of the market too. But
Yeah.
yeah, having a reel allows me to show them, here's somebody you should look at.
Right.
As opposed to me just, you know, they don't know me. So it's like, we can do it, I promise. But that, you know, they're nervous. So it's like, can you show me anything that helps me show my client that this is the right way to go? It's like, yeah, I can do that.
And it's such a great feeling to prove that our Florida market is absolutely capable of doing anything that LA's able to do too.
Oh yeah. Here's another quick story. I remember this was before, you know, even Skype was reliable. So I remember having a callback where I was facilitating the New York callback from a bank building in downtown Orlando. And then we were going to do the live callback of our people there. Mm-hmm. I think we did our people. Yeah. Anyway, so we did the New York session, and we had, you know, oh, there's New York's version of this guy, of our guy. There's New York's version of this girl in our market, and we had the same thing. And one of them, and I mentioned it. It's like maybe I should be this guy's manager, but it was Jim Coleman again, and there was a Jim Coleman counterpart in New York, and I remember it was so funny. I had all the headshots of our guys, and I also had the headshots of the New York guys. So they were looking, and it was like, okay, for this next role, we have Jim Coleman from here, and then we have John Smith from New York. Definitely John Smith. Definitely John Smith. Yeah, you could see, look at his credits. I mean, this is why you want to go with the New York actor. And I let him finish, and it's like, oh, by the way, and I turned it around, this is Jim Coleman's resume. As you'll notice, he's been in these feature films, these television series as series regulars, and these SAG National commercials. And this was at a time where it's like, see, here in this market, our actors work in every aspect. They're not just commercial actors.
Right.
Put them down, and they ended up hiring Jim. But it's like, if you're not there to referee it, they do go to the assumption where it's like, you can't have a good actor in Orlando. Why would they be in Orlando?
Right.
It's because people can carve out a living anywhere.
Yeah. And because Orlando is a great market to be able to raise a family and live a different lifestyle. Right.
And that I often explain that, do you think we can pull some people in from Tampa? It's like, it's all one market. You get Tampa, Clearwater, Sarasota, you get Orlando, Jacksonville, Daytona.
Yeah.
You'll even get part of South Florida.
Big market.
I'll give it all to you. And also it's like, well, should we be doing this in Miami? It's like, so wait, you're looking for a middle American family? No, Orlando's where you need to do it. And I get it. You think because Miami is the biggest city that might be where all the actors are. That's where the models are, and that's where some of the Latin market is.
Absolutely.
But if you want middle America, there's not a better melting pot than the Orlando, Tampa area, because people can work, number one, they can work at theme parks and have the insurance and have a steady gig. Number two, after a while, those early theme park people decided, well, enough of the G-rated repetitiveness of everyday grind. Let's go start a theater. Let's go start an improv troupe. Let's do this, that, and the other. And so you have that being exercised on a regular basis, on a weekend, nightly basis. We have the Fringe Festival, the largest outside of Scotland. Yes.
Yeah. Outside.
And they are in Orlando because they can easily get to Miami and Atlanta. And it's like, when you start saying that, they're like, oh my God, of course. But had I not said that, it's like you would leave believing the largest city equals the best talent. Well, I haven't cast a lot in Texas, but you don't go to Houston. You go to Austin to find the creatives and the artists and the actors. And most people know that because of South by Southwest and Austin City Limits and that. But Orlando, the Blair Witch is not really young enough and fresh enough to say, well, Blair Witch was shot here. But I can say, like, look, go to my website and look at all the clips. All those commercials and all those films were shot locally with local talent. So I often say, are you familiar? And I didn't cast this, but it's like, are you familiar with Bloodline? Yeah. Well, any episode of Bloodline was probably 80 to 90% Orlando-based talent, not Miami.
Right, right.
For every one Miami actor you saw in an episode, you'd probably see 5 from Orlando, Tampa.
And I think it's so important to realize that Orlando has thrived in spite of the fact we have the strongest non-union actor base, I believe, in the country. Because we've been right to work for so long that the vast majority of our actors stay non-union so that they can work on both union and non-union projects. And so, and those non-union actors are often auditioning multiple times a week, multiple times a month. And so their muscles are warm and they're sharp. And it's just a really fantastically diverse actor group. I mean, I wish we had more diversity, but I mean, we're a fantastically talented group.
Yeah, and not to disparage the union, but you know, that is so true that, you know, when you finally get a SAG national casting, you know, the SAG guy is like, you know, I'll shave my head, I'll cut my feet off, what do you need me to do? And you know, the one thing they're not coming out and saying to expose their desperation is, I haven't shot a SAG national or a SAG commercial in 3 years.
Yeah.
The non-union person is coming in and it's like, hey, I got another audition, I have a call back. When is this shooting? Okay, I got a fitting, but I can probably move it. It's just a well-oiled machine versus the person that's atrophied because God help them, you know, their union is just not keeping up with the opportunities.
Yeah, I spoke to an agent in LA recently who said that 80% of the commercials, even in Los Angeles, are non-unions.
True,
now. Yeah. And I mean, that's true here too, obviously. So. And
this isn't for everyone who really wants to, you know, be a trained actor and build their career. But even out here in LA, we do those forever buyouts for Disneyland instead of Disney World, and I turn people away, you know. But you know, and occasionally some of those get the bug and then they go and get training and then they're doing stuff and they'll never turn back to do another one. But it's you know, it's the way it is. And it's like, there's a lot of people that do that stuff. But in Orlando in particular, it's like, gosh, you know, your competition is not firing at 100%. Why not go in fully prepared just and nail it? Because if you do, you're not going to be one of 70 people we saw. You're going to be one of 5 people that really nailed it.
Right.
And the rest become just like safeties. Like, we'll call him and her back, but I mean, these are the 5 for sure. And it's just obvious. It's so obvious.